Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Discover Homeschooling by Homeschool Global Middle East. I'm privileged to be your host today. My name is Peachy Siderio. I serve at HG and grateful to be served by HG. I say that because we are also a homeschooling family. I have 3 kids that I homeschool for 6 years now, and we're so blessed to have this opportunity. Just a few friendly reminders for all of us before we begin. Please be patient with us for any technical slips. You know, in this season, everyone seems to be online, and so we've prepared for this morning. But please be patient if ever we encounter, hopefully none. If you have any comments or questions, even while our guest speakers are speaking to us, you may use the chat box already to put your questions there. But know that we have a breakout room sessions for specific questions about curriculum or the fees, and that is where we will be talking about that. Once again, if you have questions or comments, most especially the general ones about the why you need to choose to homeschool, or what is homeschooling, and especially about the topic that our guest speakers are going to be discussing, you may put your questions in the chat box. But for curriculum and the fees, we have breakout room sessions for that after the general plenary session. By the end of the day, we also aim to answer 3 questions, and that is, firstly, what is homeschooling? And then who is HG and what your next steps are. We are now ready to hear it from our very special guest speakers. And they are a well-loved family, beautiful family. They are mentors in many areas, such as marriage, parenting, finances, and of course, the homeschooling space, because of their authenticity, their passion, and faithfulness to God in the many seasons of their lives. And I am a witness to that, and I'm blessed every time I get to sit down with them or even hear them online. And so we have this morning, we are grateful to have none other than the chairman of Homeschool Global, Mr. Edric Mendoza, with his lovely wife, Joy, who was also homeschooled herself, and she'll share a lot about that. And of course, their children. They have 6, maybe 5, because the youngest one is still a baby. Not sure if Kaylee sleeping right now. But ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome the Mendoza family. Hello. Hi.
Hi, everybody.
Good afternoon to you. Good morning. Katie's here. Hello there.
Middle East. Hi. So we do have our baby with us.
Thanks for joining us. Please, Edric, take it away for our families.
Awesome. Thank you, Teacher Beach. So hello to everybody there. First of all, we pray that you're all safe and well. As you join us in the orientation, we know that times are very difficult, especially in the Middle East region. And so we hope that however this message finds you, it will not only be informative, but also encouraging. So my name is Edric again, and together with my wife, Joy, we want to start off by letting you hear from our children what they like about homeschooling so far. We'll start from the youngest and work our way up. Obviously, this little baby is not going to say much. So we're going to go with this other baby, who's a young lady now. Go ahead. What do you like about homeschooling, darling?
Hi, my name is Catalina, and I'm 6 years old. What I like about homeschooling is that we have fun with each other, we get along, and we do some art. And also my favorite subject is math, because I learned lots of things in that.
Awesome, baby. Okay, thank you, darling. So Catalina, next.
Hi, my name is Sean. So what I like about homeschooling is that we get to do lots of art, because I really like art. And we get to do biking and all these different kinds of sports. And my favorite subject is science. I like science because it teaches me a lot about animals and people and the body types and stuff. And I also like animals a lot. That's why.
Okay, thank you, darling. That's Tiana, 9 years old. She likes her animals and sports. All right, next.
Hi, my name is Titus, and I am 12. And what I like about homeschooling is that we get to have a wonderful teacher, like our mom.
This is new. I'm hearing this.
And that we get to choose. We get to choose our curriculums. Our mom asks us which ones we like, and sometimes she also knows which ones are good. So yeah, and also we.
Sometimes she knows, huh? Many times she knows. So, all right, buddy. Thank you. So that's what you like. Thank you, Titus. Next.
Hi, my name is Eden. I am 14 years old. And what I like about homeschooling is that it makes you love learning because it's something you do every day. And because you have so much time, it's not something you're forced to do. Well, sometimes of course, we have to do it every day, but not like in a forced scheduled classroom.
Not
It's
as
something,
rigid.
yeah. It's something we learn to love because it's part of our life and it's around us every day. So because we love learning, it makes us want to develop in the areas that we like doing, like educational areas. Like for me personally, I like learning about plants or table tennis or doing businesses and
Table
art.
tennis.
Yes.
Who's gonna play you next? Who beat you last time?
Me.
Thank you, Eden. All right, 14-year-old Eden. So he likes the sports. He can go deep into it. He loves learning. That's his words. And last, our eldest.
I'm Elijah. I'm the eldest. I'm 17. I've been homeschooling since 0 years old. And what I've liked about homeschooling is that it allows us as a family to build a shared culture and build character in us as kids. Because through homeschooling, we learn to love and respect our parents, and they're able to pass on the values with us because we develop our relationship with them because there's so much time we have together. So by God's grace, I think that's what I've been able to see. What's been one of the greatest blessings of homeschooling.
Does all the time also create some maddening experiences?
Yeah, well, yes, but
And what do you do? What do we do as a family?
as a family, we're able to. It's not perfect, of course, but I think what we've learned through the years is that being humble really helps, and my dad has been able to model that to all of us.
Wow, I
And
was
my
not
mom.
prepared for that either.
So their modeling rubs off on us very much in both good ways
and
and bad ways.
ways.
But by God's grace for us, more of the good.
Awesome. Thanks for being honest, Elijah. Good job. Thanks, buddy. So Joy here was homeschooled. She is we have kind of a multicultural mix, if you will. Joy is Chinese American, born in the Philippines. I am a Filipino, but born in the US, raised there for a few years. And, we met Philippines, fell in love, and the rest is history. Why are we here? We're talking about homeschooling, and I'd like to ask her to help you guys see what does she like about homeschooling, not just as a mother who homeschools our six, but who also was homeschooled at a certain season of her elementary years. So, honey.
Yeah, well, I'll kind of say what my kids said, but I'll just word it into 4 R's. The first would be like
This
a
is
real,
good. I love this part.
a real life education. What do I mean by that? We're not just educating our children's minds or their, focusing on their cognitive development, but really also emphasizing the development of their total persons, which would be their emotional, their spiritual development, also their physical and their relational development. One of the things that I appreciate about homeschooling is that our kids eat the right food. They're able to eat healthy food. They're able to get enough exercise in the day and also good sleep and have good habits, because that's all part of their education. Homeschooling becomes like a lifestyle, right? It's something you do together as a family, and it impacts all the other parts of our children's persons, not just their minds or their mental capacities. And then I say it's a real life education because when there's no pandemic, we travel as a family, and that's part of their learning experience, meeting other people, getting to know different cultures, tasting different foods, getting to see the world. That's part of their education as well. And then the second one is a respect for their uniquenesses. As you will know, if you have more than one child, they're all different and they all have their strengths. They also have their weaknesses. And when you home educate, because it's personalized, you really get to see them develop their bents, their interests, their talents. And there's a lot of time to that because you're not focused on they're not just in a classroom for X number of hours a day. The flexibility allows them to learn many different things that are not even part of the curriculum. For example, Elijah, my eldest, the 17-year-old, he started coding when he was about 9 or 10 years old. And now he codes in about 5 or 6 different languages. And he got into programming because it was something he was interested in. And he had the time to do it because his days were not cannibalized by just the academics or the subjects that he had to cover. So he's been able to go really deep into that. And before the pandemic happened, he was already interning with a bank in his 11th grade year, where he was coding and programming a robot, and he was helping them with some AI. So these are, this being able to customize it, being able to really respect their uniquenesses. I really believe that children should not be forced into a cookie cutter mold. And a lot of times in the classroom, the most well-meaning teachers, because they mean well, right? There's a lot of good schools out there, but it's very hard for them to cater the education to every child's uniquenesses or their needs. So for example, if they're falling behind in math, if they're in a classroom, they just have to catch up. And sometimes there'll be gaps in their learning because they have to keep up with the lesson plan of the teacher and the pace of the rest of the class. But when you're homeschooling, if there's a gap, you can address it. You can make sure they master that skill first before proceeding to the next skill. And the same thing goes for their strengths. If they already know the content, you don't have to belabor it because they already know it. So you can move on to other things. You can enrich their learning experience. And then the third R is relationship. My children mentioned this, and it's not just about our relationship with one another, but it's also their relationship as siblings. They're each other's best friends. They don't always get along, but they learn to work out their differences. And then they learn to choose good friends as well, because their socialization is primarily vertical, meaning it's multi-dimensional, right? It's not just with same age peers. They're socializing with us, with relatives, with their siblings, with friends of different ages. So it's a more realistic socialization experience. Because that's what it's going to be like in the real world when they eventually go off and do their careers or businesses. And then the fourth thing is there's rewards. Sometimes it's hard to see at the beginning, but if you keep at the homeschooling journey and you really put in the gears, you see, as Elijah talked about, there is that similarity of culture with you and your children, and you don't have to deal with as many competing influences. Sometimes your kids come home from school and you're like, where do they pick up that word or that attitude? Or how come they are talking to me this way when I didn't teach them that? And it's because there's so many competing influences when you are not the primary influence in your children's lives. And so that's been one of the big blessings of homeschooling is that reward, being able to share the same culture, the same values, the same character traits that we believe are most important. And as a mom, I just love having front row seats to my children's growing up years. I feel like I'm not missing out on their different milestones because we're together so often, and especially now with the lockdown. But
so those are your 4 R's. Let's recap for the 4 R's. The first R is
real life education.
Second R,
and then the second one would be respect for their uniquenesses, and then relationship. And then the rewards.
Rewards. Wow. With the fifth R, I'm really proud of you for being the one to actually go into the trenches with our children. And you know what? For the dads out there, if your wives should decide to homeschool, they'll need that. That's a free tip from me.
A lot of
Encouragement towards a spouse. So let's go to the textbook.
A lot of dads are also homeschooling.
Well, there are growing numbers. So if you are a dad, then we really appreciate you also if you will be the one to do it, because it's honestly a bit more challenging as you juggle work, etc. So let's look at the textbook definition that we use. And in this definition, there are words that you'll kind of hear through Joy's discussion and my kids sharing. So here's what it looks like. For us, when we talk about homeschooling, just to make it clear amidst the clutter, because there's so many things you can Google, what is homeschooling for us? It is parent-led, home-based education. So 3 sets of words. Let me unpack this for you using some of the things that Joy already shared. Parent-led, in one word, is the word control. What does control mean? And I'm going to be echoing a lot of the words we've been hearing from parents who have actually been coming to us and deciding to homeschool. So when they say control, what they appreciate would be things like, I can control where my money goes. Right now, as we know, because the world has rocked us all financially, economically, people are scrambling, right? Finding ways to make their financial goals or obligations still be achieved. And in the area of education, we don't want to compromise on our kids' learning, right? So what parents are doing is they're seeing, you know what, given the way that schools are shifting, where many are actually saying, you know, you will be at home, and as you're at home, you still have to follow the same sort of schedule set in the classrooms of the school facilities. So as they're doing that and still following those rhythms, a number of schools actually have kept their fees the same. So they've come to us saying, if we're going to be effectively paying the same thing, and we won't have as much flexibility with the time and the schedule, and we won't have access to the facilities because it's new normal, then we might as well take this on ourselves and be the one to teach our kids and pay less through a homeschooling scenario. That's what parent-led means. That's what control means. You are now going to drive it. So that's the downside, if you will. You don't have a teacher and a group of people that will now work on teaching your children. You have to do it yourself. But the upside is you have this control. You can be the one to put your money where you want it to go. And you can also be the one to work schedules around, right? Now, what do I mean by you can work schedules around? One of the top questions we get today is, how can I homeschool even if we're working? It's a very good question, right? So the straight answer to that would be, yes, you can, but it will be more challenging. What do I mean by more challenging? Even if you are working, and let's say it's outside of the home scenario, where maybe you're part of a skeletal shift, you're alternating, and on the days you're out, you're worried about, how will I give time to my kids because I am working? Part of what you will need to ask yourself, and the hard question is, can you put in, for younger ages, about 1 to 2 hours a day, right? Still after your working hours, and then pour in some extra effort on Saturdays. And it's very important that at the young age, you're able to give a lot of hands-on attention because they are younger and they will need a lot of that, right? As they grow older, maybe they will be able to direct the learning so they can have their own block times of learning. And then you come in with maybe another 1 or 2 hours every day.
Yeah,
still.
it depends on the age and the level. So
right.
with younger children, like ages 7 or 8 below, 2 to 3 hours of them doing the work, but you don't always have to, do everything for them. And that's already with breaks. As they move up the levels, 3 to 4, and then in high school, 4 to 6 hours. And
so even while they're working, you're saying that's the number of hours they need to cover.
With the older kids, as Edric was saying, when I say 4 to 6 hours, that doesn't mean that you're going to be sitting down with them doing 4 to 6 hours of instruction time. Edric can explain this later, but there's many curriculum options where the kids will actually do something online, or it's tech-based. So there's somebody teaching the content on your behalf. But it's still parent-led in the sense that you choose. Do you want to do more tech? Do you want to mix it up with books? Do you want to do all books? And as the children get older, a lot of the content they can learn on their own because they have those fundamental skills of being able to read and comprehend well and problem solve. The basic arithmetic skills are in place.
Right. So parent-led, right? Control. And this is what we're looking at. If you are working, those would be your workarounds. There is reality checks also where you need to still put in time because we want to give our children a quality learning experience, right? So parent-led, you're in control. You can control the time. And I was about to segue into that with this next word. Parent-led, the next word is home-based. And when we say home-based, in one word, that's the word flexible. So when we look at being able to control your time, flexibility is your best friend, right? Flexibility in terms of what you will learn, how you will learn, where you will learn, and when you will learn, right? So that's what home-based means. Instead of being set in a facility or in a schedule given by the facility in a school system, you now have the flexibility to work around that, right? And what does that look like? My wife here has a nice diagram she's been able to put
No,
together.
I didn't die. I just wrote it out so that you can see an example
What it
of a
looks like,
schedule.
yeah.
So this is our schedule. You don't have to copy this because, as Edric said, it is flexible. So you can decide on your own what will work for you. But for us, this is what it looks like during the weekdays, okay? So 6:30 a.m. we wake up, we exercise together. That would be like our physical education, PE for the kids. Breakfast at 7:30, and then the kids do chores. And you guys in Dubai or in the Middle East, you'll understand how important it is to get your kids to help out with cleaning in the house. And that can be like their home economics, right? That's like their home economics already. They can help cook, they can help clean. And then for the other subjects, 9 a.m. is when we officially start. And they will only do about 3 to 4 subjects a day, and then alternate it with the ones that they didn't do the next day. So maybe Monday, Wednesday, Friday could be like math, language, arts, and then world history. And then the next day could be science, character, and something else. So you don't need to cover all the subjects every day, because the reality is when you're homeschooling, the kids actually cover a lot more content than they would in a classroom, because it's one-on-one, and not just that it's one-on-one, but they're not having to wait for their classmates to catch up with the lesson or for the teacher to do classroom management. So there's a lot of time saved when you're homeschooling. And so 9 to 12:30 would be for younger children. This would be like grades 5 below. They will be done by 12:30 usually. And then for the older kids, if they need more time after lunch, 1:30 to 3:30, you can give them that block of time as well to do research, to do their writing, to do their reading. That's for the older children. This would be like high schoolers. And then 3:30, they're free. Actually, the younger kids are already free at 1:30. They can do art, they can practice a musical instrument. And then we get back together for dinner at 6. And then at 7:30, we have family time again, and we all go to bed by 9 or 9:30.
Right. So what I like about this is that, we talk about flexibility, but it does not mean foolhardiness, right? Where you just say whatever goes. You still have to have some semblance of a structure.
Yeah.
So even within this structure, there's flexibility right here, and how
Yeah,
they
they
go
still
about
have
this.
breaks. They have breaks here.
And even where they learn. You want to talk about,
Yeah.
Our kids don't always just sit at a desk,
Right.
right?
Because sometimes if you're thinking about homeschooling, you're imagining transporting the classroom experience into your home. And it doesn't work that way, because the home is a much more natural learning environment where you could use your kitchen to do science experiments, the outdoors, if you have outdoor area for gardening, or if you have a balcony where you have plants. So that's all part of their learning. And then sometimes they're reading on a couch or reading on their bed, but they're still getting the work done. And then at times, of course, they also have a desk space. And you're not gonna, some of you have small spaces, so you're not gonna be able to have like a full classroom for your kids. So what you can do is just transform, or just do a dual purpose use for maybe the dining room table. And then they can also do their homeschooling there, and just be organized. So when they're done with their work, they pack away, they clean up, and there's a place for everything. But you don't have to have a classroom in order to homeschool.
Awesome. So the last word in the definition, what is homeschooling? We've talked about parent-led, which means control. We talked about home-based, which is flexibility. When we look at control and flexibility, we also look at the concept of personalizing, right? Being able to customize and tailor fit the learning to the individual child, which brings us to this last word, education. Even if, we like the idea of, yes, I have control. Control also means safety and security, right? A large part of the reason parents are looking at homeschooling now is because of that. The fears around COVID and the interaction. So I want to be able to control that, which is great, because homeschooling allows me to do that. We also, one thing I needed to add here is control in the area of influence. Many people will ask, what about socialization when it comes to homeschooling? And we have a whole set of answers, but the short answer, and I think that the nice way to look at it is, in a time like this, we are reminded of, what really matters. And when we look at what really matters, we ask ourselves, who is in the best position to teach our children what really matters? The values, the right behaviors, the right attitudes, having hope at a time like this, all of these very important things, the richness of that. We'd like to think that parents are in the best position to help influence their children. So as far as socialization is concerned, the upside of homeschooling is we become the primary influencers in our children's lives. And assuming we are good parents, that will be a good thing. So that, as Elijah said, right, he sees everything we do, the good and the bad. But as we aspire to do what is right, more and more authentic with them, they're able to see that. And therefore, we're able to impart the more important things so that when all of the other lessons in life happen, academics, etc., there is that good foundation. So that is also part of control, controlling the influence on the children. So control, flexibility, parent-led, home-based, and now the word education, which is all about the responsibility of learning. We need to remember that even as we're undertaking this, we like the control, we like the flexibility, we like the bonding moments. Our kids were giggling through these wonderful moments of being able to bike together, laugh together, watch things, and which is all wonderful, but it is a responsibility. And here's a diagram that helps us appreciate what is that responsibility and what does it look like. This diagram is something I picked up from the Harvard Graduate School of Education as I completed my certificate program called the Certificate of Advanced Education Leadership there. And the professor that inspired this, or who crafted it, is named Richard Elmore, Professor Richard Elmore. And this is what it basically means. In the area of learning, the stronger the interaction between these three components, teacher, student, and content, the greater is the learning. So the more the teacher is able to teach the student, the more the student is able to ask questions and participate and listen and obey what the teacher is saying. As they work with, let's say, the math textbook or the science textbook, the greater is the learning, right? Now, the world has changed. And the reason I like showing this diagram is because when we see how the world has changed, it used to be that when I was studying, when things were still only print-based, there was no internet and online technology, the teacher had to master the math or science textbook, and I would be dependent on the teacher for the most part to help me work through the textbook and workbook. And as I listened to the teacher and trusted her and did my work, engaging it, then I would learn better. But because the content has changed, this Zoom call that we're having right now, or this live stream, is a testament to how the technology and the internet has really changed the world, right? Even if we put all the teachers in the world today together, the internet would have more information than all of them put together. Because of that, the job of a teacher is no longer to be the master of the content necessarily, but instead to be resourceful in finding good content that they can now engage the student with. Does that make sense? So that's the shift today. And the reason that's important is because many parents' first apprehensions would be, as they think about homeschooling, kaya ko ba to? Can I do this? Do I have the capability? You know, I'm not an expert teacher. I don't have a mastery of the subject. So I don't know if I can do this. The good news is, because the world has changed, that pressure is lessened. I'm not saying there's no pressure, obviously. My wife is giggling. We've had a conversation about this. She sometimes likes to tease me and says, honey, you're not the one actually teaching the kids. So, which is true, right? So as I share this construct, I'm going to let my wife bring it down to make it real for you. As I wrap up this idea of learning and this responsibility, we realize that the learner or the student can actually change also. It's no longer me as a student trusting and being dependent on the teacher to study the content. Because of technology and this online space, I can study what I want. I can go far in it, and I can go deep and wide in the subject matter. So that's what this diagram means. And therefore, the responsibility of us as parents is to do two things. Number one is to help shift from being a teacher to a facilitator. And number two is to help our children shift from being just a student to now a self-directed learner, right? So as we do that, as you can see here in this diagram, we need to shift from saying, what's the best school? Is it homeschool? What's the best provider? Those are all good questions, but the best question really is, how can my child learn best? And for that to happen, the parent has to become a good facilitator and the child has to become a good self-directed learner. So honey, you want to speak about the realities of what that looks like?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Ejik that the goal is that you want to move your children from being dependent on you for their instruction to being self-directed learners. So at a certain point, you definitely shift, right, from being the one to explain the content to just giving the kids the resources so that they can explore and learn on their own. And the assumption here is, and it's a true assumption, kids are born to learn. They have this innate curiosity and desire to learn. And so you want to capitalize on that. Sometimes that gets lost in the conventional schooling model because they're forced to learn what everybody else is learning. They're forced to be a certain way in the classroom. But you'll discover when you homeschool, their uniquenesses, as I shared earlier, they tend to appear and come out, especially as they start to get older. You'll see their interests come out. And so what you want to do is feed those interests and encourage them. Now, with what he was saying, for example, with teaching something like math, there was a point where I got really intimidated because I just felt like I'm not so good at math myself. And how am I going to present this content? It was becoming algebra and all that to my kids in a way that they will understand when I'm trying to understand it myself, you know? And so this is where I decided, okay, I'm going to research. And I found out that there was a site called khanacademy.org. It's actually a free site. Whether you homeschool or not, you can actually use it. And it taught everything from basic arithmetic all the way up to calculus. So this year, Elijah was doing differential calculus. And even though I'm his homeschool teacher, I'm not the one teaching that content because he's able to access Khan Academy and the content there, and it provides progress reports and it tests him and it quizzes him. And he's learning calculus very well. And so that's not thanks to me, maybe to me for being resourceful, but thanks to Sal Khan, the author behind and the creator behind Khan Academy. So that's just an example because I want you guys to be encouraged that I'm not an educator. I've been homeschooling for 17 years, but somehow the kids are turning out fine. Every time they take their assessments, they're doing well. And it's because homeschooling provides them with an environment that is conducive for learning. And our job as facilitators is to create a conducive learning environment. And so what does that mean? Well, we have to track their progress, right? It's not just like hands off and say, okay, you're on your own, stand and sit in front of a computer and that's how you
do all of it for
yeah,
you.
no, you're still the parent first, right? And our role as parents is to make sure if there are character issues, we need to address those. You could have a really brilliant child, but if they don't want to obey, they don't want to listen to you, they're not respectful of authority, they don't understand responsibility, it's going to be very hard to homeschool them because even if you want them to be self-directed learners, they're not internally or intrinsically motivated to learn. So if there's character issues, you have to come in as a parent and coach them, guide them, discipline them. And then you also want to see if they're really getting the work done. So periodically, as Edric said, if you're a working parent, at the end of the day, if they're on a tech-based program, you have to check what work did they accomplish today? How far did they get? Are they struggling with anything? You have to have those conversations with your child. And then you have to observe, how does my child learn best? Sometimes kids are social, so they want group learning experiences. So you're going to have to find out who are the other families, like on this live feed right now, who are also planning to homeschool that I can get together with, because you are usually going to be grouped into a learn group if you're homeschooling with Homeschool Global. And then you could do group learning experiences through Zoom for now because of the quarantine. And then I find that the other thing that I had to learn as a homeschool parent was to keep on learning, keep on being willing to improve in my teaching techniques or facilitation techniques, keep looking for the best curriculum that really suits my children's interests and will maximize the way they learn, because some children are auditory, some children are more visual, some children need more hands-on learning. You know, this is really a lot to talk about, so I'm not going to go too detailed into this, but I think basically what Edric and I want to reassure you about is that you don't have to know all the content all the time, because the curriculum out there is built in such a way that it does what Edric calls the heavy lifting for you.
Yeah.
And so that's very comforting.
Yeah, and depending on the different tracks, right? There are several tracks under Homeschool Global, which the team will talk about in a little bit. You can choose that kind of mix. How much of the teaching do you want to be just all online, or a little bit of a blend?
Can I say something about that? I just realized something. When it comes to younger children, my advice is don't do all tech for younger children up until the ages, up until grade 3, as much as possible. First of all, you're not gonna have to spend that much time teaching them because the content is not as difficult. You don't even really need answer keys or teacher's guides, but it's also for their eyesight, for their development. You know, sometimes when it's all tech-based, it also wires their brain in a certain way, and you wanna make sure in the younger years, they're used to holding books, they're used to the texture of paper, and writing and things like that. And you want to have those things in place first. And also the character traits, how to have self-control with the use of gadgets and how to monitor their own time, how to take good breaks and be efficient with their time on devices. And so I would suggest for the older kids, if you want to go all tech-based, reserve that for the older children. But for the younger children, you really want to still have interaction time with them and getting them exposed to handheld books and things like that.
Awesome. So those are the key components of this simple definition. Homeschooling is parent-led, home-based education. Before we wrap up with what we like to say is the most important question, we want to hear your questions. So Teacher Peach, are there questions from our viewers today that we can help answer before we go to the why?
Yeah, thanks. We have a question here about what about for those families with another religious background?
Sure. So religious backgrounds are not obviously a requirement as you homeschool or even at HG. We have families across some of the major world religions. We have Muslims, Hindus, we have Buddhists, we have Roman Catholics, we have Protestants, Christians of different denominations. In the Philippines, there are even religious groups like Iglesia ni Cristo and Jehovah's Witnesses, right? So those would be the religious backgrounds of families that are enrolled in our program. So it has not been
A
well, it's
barrier.
definitely not a requirement,
Yeah.
right? So that's how it works so far. Now, there may be some Christian content that is required to be covered under our program anywhere in the world. But the reality that we've seen for many families of different religious backgrounds that aren't necessarily Christian is they treat it as an academic exercise. And we have heard many stories of how they use that to help reinforce even how they study their own religious belief systems and the doctrines. And it has worked wonderfully for many families. So that's how it's set up under Homeschool Global. Religion is not a requirement as you enroll. And if there is Christian content that is required for you to cover and you find that is not aligned with your own belief system, we encourage you to treat it like an academic exercise. I've had even friends in the school system before who in our private Roman Catholic Jesuit school system as a Muslim prince, I asked him and he said he treats it as an academic exercise and he did very well. He was an honor student. So that's what I encourage you. You know, there are some subject areas that kids will not like math, and they have to cover it anyway as an academic exercise. So I hope that encourages you even as you think through, you know, religious backgrounds and differences.
Okay, just last one before I let you finish this segment. I had a question about how there's much sacrifice that's involved in homeschooling, and yet this mom specifically have dreams on, you know, for herself. So how about that? I remember in one of the orientations, I sat down with Joy about this, and I've heard her sort of, you know, talk about this sacrifice. But then, yeah. So yeah, please.
Right, honey.
Now, I think anything you do that is worthwhile in life does involve sacrifice, right? And there are seasons. I tell moms that there are seasons to our lives. You know, the season when our children are young, when they still need us, when they still want us, when they're still, when their hearts are still malleable and they are still easily influenced by us. It's a season that's not going to be there forever. And so while we have that opportunity to really impact their lives and impact their hearts, we can't really delegate that, right? There's nobody who's going to be as committed to our children as we are as parents. And so on the one hand, you could delegate it to an institution, but are they really going to be as committed to making sure that our children grow up with the right character, with the right principles, that they really have true success in life? That's really something that only you can do. And yes, it involves sacrifice, but you know, what was said to me by somebody I really look up to when he was counseling Educ and I about homeschooling, he said, you give this season of your life to homeschooling your kids, to really being there for them and with them. And then God will give you another season later on to do the things that you also want to do. It's not saying goodbye completely, right, to the things that we want to do, but it's saying we'll put that on hold for now because there's something more urgent, something that's more important that requires that I prioritize it in this season. Because that's what life is about, right? There's different season. And so to every season, there's something that's required of us, a certain amount of sacrifice. So we have to understand what season are you in, and what is the 5% that only you can do, that you cannot delegate to others, that nobody else can do as well for you or for your children.
Well
So good.
said.
Thank you. Yeah, I think
Thank
it's
you.
time to just wrap it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, Teacher Peach. I'm sure you can speak to that also. Maybe you can talk to that mom separately. So here's how we want to close with you guys. Peach said that we would cover the what and the why. We've talked about the what, and obviously there's much more to it. You can get more details on how HG fits in that whole scheme with the team right after we now close with the why. And the why is very important because the reality is our kids ask us all sorts of questions, and they will. It's part of parenting. But the question is, what response do we give? You know, when they ask simple things like, why can't I watch this show? Or why can't I download this app? To more complex questions like, well, why am I in this school? Why do I have to learn these subjects? Or why are we even considering homeschooling? Those are all great questions. And as good parents, we probably give them different responses each time. But the better thing to do for us is to now ask, why is it that we are doing these things for our children? And that why will point to an end goal. And that end goal is what we need to be able to clarify so that once it is clear to us as parents, then we can answer all those questions, including this one today. Why should I homeschool? Why should we as a family consider doing it? Why should you even choose Homeschool Global, right? So what is that end goal? And if that is now clear, then you can answer the question, should we homeschool? Should we do these things? And point our children to that end goal, right? I like to give the example of, I'm not sure if there are dads here who are Netflix watchers, and this series that concluded on the last dance of Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls and Phil Jackson, right? So if the end goal is for our children to become better than Michael Jordan or like him,
then Michael Jackson.
Yeah, Michael Jordan, right? Or Michael Jackson, right? So if that's the end goal, then when your child says something like, Dad, why do I have to watch this? Well, those are clips of basketball players. And if you study how they play, then you become very good. You'll become like Michael Jordan, even better. Dad, why do I have to eat these food groups? Well, if you eat the junk and eat too much of that, your body's not going to be very fit. And if you're not fit, you won't become like Michael Jordan. So that's why it's so important for us to say, what is that end goal? What is that vision we have for our children? So that our answers will now have a depth and a purpose to it. And we encourage you as parents to make sure if there's anything you'll take away from our talk with you, it is that we need to ask the harder questions. What is that why? What is the end goal? And as we share and close with you, we'd like to overshare, if you will, and just share, why is it that we see homeschooling fit our end goal? Honey?
Yeah, well, once again, this is something very personal that you're going to have to, if you're married, you're going to have to talk to your spouse about and agree on, because it's really a parenting goal, right? To what end are you parenting your children? How do you imagine them 10, 20 years from now? What kind of adults do you want them to be? What kind of success do you want them to have in life? And for us, it was much more than just academic success, because we thought, let's say our kids do brilliantly in school and they're really gifted academically, but what if they have no character? What if they have no moral compass? What if they have no love for God? Then what kind of people will we really have released into this world, and what kind of impact will they make? And people like that who are brilliant but no character can destroy themselves and the people around them and the world, right? So many years ago, we decided that we really want to raise children who will love God with all their heart, soul, mind, and strength, and will really follow him and obey him, and develop their talents and abilities for his glory, and to make a positive difference in this world, to make an impact in this world. And we thought through what would be the best kind of environment to achieve that. And as we weighed the option, we realized homeschooling would give us would allow us to really meet that end goal. Why? Because when you homeschool, you have more time with your children, and that quality and quantity time allows you to influence their hearts, not just their minds. And anybody can influence the minds of our children, right? And as well as their hearts, if they have a lot of time with them. So we wanted us to be the primary influence. And so homeschooling made sense in that regard. And then we said there are certain values and principles that we want to pass on to our children. And we're not sure we can just delegate that to others, right? You can't just delegate that to your church or to an institution or to peers. We are the ones who should be most committed about doing that. And so we said if we have time to influence them and then their hearts are turned to us because we have that relationship, then we can pass on these values. We can pass on that culture that we believe is important. And then we wanted to make sure that they had an education that, as I shared earlier, was really personalized, right? That maximized their gifts and their talents. Because God has called us to steward our children faithfully. And the best way we can faithfully steward them is to make sure that they are able to have the opportunities and the experiences that maximize their uniqueness and their gifts and their talents. And last year, I was recovering from major surgery because I could have died when I was operated on a month after I gave birth to my sixth child. Something went very wrong inside my body. And my recovery was so difficult, and I had to recover from major surgery. I had to take care of a newborn, and I also had to homeschool. And I just cried to my husband, and I said, I don't think I can do this. I think that for once in my life, my parenting journey, I'm considering sending the kids to school because I don't think I can do it well. And I was really so heartbroken about it. But at the same time, I was just trying to be realistic. And my husband was really sweet. He listened to me. He was very comforting. But it was really God who spoke to my heart. And he said, why are you homeschooling in the first place? And I said, well, I really want our kids to love you, to know you, to have a personal relationship with you. And he said, well, if that's the conviction that I gave you, then can you believe that I'll give you the supernatural capacity and the supernatural grace to do it? And
it's okay, baby.
So I guess basically what he was trying to say to me was, you know what, you just show up. You just be faithful every day. You give what you can, even if it's not perfect, even if it seems so lacking and you feel so incapable. And I'll provide where you lack, and I'll fill in the gaps. And sure enough, I know I finished last year's homeschooling about later than usual, I think about August. And I felt like I was barely, making it to the finish line of that school year. But looking back, Edric and I would probably say last year was the hardest year of our lives, but it was also the most fulfilling because we really saw how God came through for us. And, homeschooling is also a journey of faith. Many things in this life you may feel like you have the capacity to do, but you will realize when you're homeschooling, it needs supernatural capacity. And so you need that God-given capacity. And it makes you very dependent on the Lord. And it makes you reevaluate everything in life, really. So I'm so glad we didn't stop. And we're going to keep going for as long as we can, not can. And honestly, it's still been one of the best decisions we've made as parents.
Thank you, baby. I wasn't expecting that. There's so many details there that I forget. So thank you for sharing that, honey. And that's our why, guys. I mean, we've seen that by using homeschooling, if you will, as a means for us to, yes, help make sure they cover the academics well, but more so really influence their hearts and minds so that they might get to know the God and love him and serve him. That is our greatest assurance in this world that can really get dark and scary. So that's our why. And yes, go ahead. I want to say one thing before we go.
One last thing to encourage you guys, if you train your kids in character, if you give them the right principles for living, the academics, it will follow. Because if you have an obedient child, a child that understands the why, that it wants to respect you and wants to also listen to you, it's easy to put material in front of them and encourage them to study it because they have that character in place. That's why character must precede even the academics. And the academics, it will follow. You don't need to be so stressed about that part. A lot of times the bigger challenge with homeschooling is really the parenting. And Edric always says, what do you say, hon?
Yeah, good parenting equals good homeschooling. Yeah. In that order.
I just wanted to add that.
Thank you, darling. Again, if there's anything you'll take away from our portion, it is to remember to ask the question, what is your why? What is that end goal you have for your children? So you might be able to answer the question, should you homeschool? Does it make sense? So God bless you guys. Thank you, Teacher Peach. We'll turn it now over to you, unless you had final questions for us.
None. Thank you so much for being here. A lot of things to take away, a lot of words of wisdom. Thank you always. God bless you.
Thank you. God bless, Peach. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, so friends, once again, that's the Mendoza family. We are privileged to have heard it from them. They are a pioneering family in homeschooling, and they've always been authentic in how they've, those sharings that are coming from them. I've seen that. I've worked with some of their children, and you can really sense that there's such a sincerity and authenticity, and it's not an easy journey as what you've heard, but it's always worth it in the end, especially if it's something that you're called to do. And to share with you more about a perspective of where we're coming from, we have a video that we want to show you. And this would have testimonials from our families. It will mention an overview of our services here at HG. So we hope you enjoy this video. Let's watch this.
Of time your child spends in school, vulnerable to bullying, depressing circumstances, and peer pressure. 384 hours, or 16 days. The average amount of time people are stuck in traffic, shrinking productivity, and taking away opportunities from families to build strong relationships. So much time lost. Time that you and your child could have spent better together, learning, dreaming, creating, living life. Time you could have maximized to nurture your child in an environment that will help him or her flourish holistically, not in this current generic education system that's killing children's potential because it's designed to prepare them for the real world of the past.
I'm Katrina Tan. I'm Nairi Matanggihan.
I'm Diana Tanchi.
I'm Jessica.
Gillian Day. I'm Kathleen Limhuko.
This is Chancellor Michael Tan.
My name is Ruel.
And I'm Franco Limhuko.
Our children were attending a traditional school, and they were pretty exhausted every day from the travel, also from the assignments.
Common problem in terms of waking up so early in the morning, ubos yung time, pagod na anak namin, pag-uwi, late na, kinabukasan, they need to again to prepare.
Simone, as a toddler, she was very calm. Then the moment that we enrolled her in school, she became more rowdy, and I could just see a shift in her personality. I was parang less of an influence in her life. And then I knew that, we had to be more active in how to raise them. We had to be more intentional in the way we raised them. It was something parang God just placed in our hearts to do.
I believe that we only have one shot at being good parents for children, and homeschooling gives us that avenue.
What made us decide to homeschool, be able to communicate better with our kids and to see them magkaroon ng foundation according to sa gusto namin and how they should grow up.
Hesitant talaga ako. Was because my mother-in-law is actually a principal. Being in an institution, school institution. So parang I felt that time that it's like doubting her profession. And I know na medyo she'll be the one na mahihirapan kami to convince to homeschool.
In homeschooling, you don't have the artificial divide of classroom equals education, and then outside of classroom is free time. I would say with homeschooling, you're on life mode all the time. And the education part is part of life. It's seamless because it's at home. You're setting your mind is always ready to take something new.
Every parent should have the power of choice to give his or her child the best education, a right of every child. Homeschool Global is here to help you.
Homeschooling has been the best decision in our lives. When you homeschool together, you become closer as a family. So they became best friends. And when I see them now, homeschooling their children with enthusiasm and the kids responding, because of homeschool, the different gifts and abilities of the children, they can develop them. I have amazing artist grandchildren, musicians, athletes, because they have time to develop those special gifts and abilities.
My mother-in-law said, I'm glad you homeschooled the kids because they're growing up to be respectful, tapos they're very loving. So, the fact na yung unang hesitation ko is the one na nag-affirm on our homeschooling journey. I guess homeschooling really is a cut above traditional education.
People think that homeschooling is just in the home. It's not true. We get to go everywhere with the kids. I think that's the advantage of homeschooling. We get to go to museums anytime we want. We get to go do activities anytime we want. We get to travel the world with them and have no schedule to follow. HG just gave us a lot of options, activities outside of the classroom, which we really appreciated. It was not only classroom or home-based. They got to go out. Classes would be in HG. Some classes would be outside of HG. But there's so many options.
We have the best advisors, and the times that we do meet, it's quality time that's given to us, and the kid adores everyone there in the homeschool, but most especially the people who help us on and much more hands-on.
Yun yung isa sa strength ni HG. Kasi they always give us training sa lahat ng kailangan namin. You don't need to worry kapag sa HG ka. Natuto kami sa parenting because of homeschooling.
So once again, that's a video to show you an overview of our services and how it has helped our families in the last 20 years that we are present. I want to start by now talking about our second question that we want to answer for today, and that is, who is Homeschool Global? Now, we have this mindset that we want to share with you. This is where we are coming from as an organization, and that is Homeschool Global empowers you to pursue what matters through flexible and personalized education. And we want to believe that the way we are able to empower the families that are in our program is via the inspiration that we can give as homeschooling families who have gone ahead of many of you, plus the trainings that we have, because we understand where you are coming from as a first-time, family who's considering to homeschool. So we have trainings because we want to make sure that amid all the distractions and challenges and the trials of this life, and that is actually real in a sense, that life is always going to be hard. We want to set that foundation that as a family, we want to pursue what matters. We want to focus on the goals that we have for our own children, because as parents, we know our children best. And so we want to encourage you, those of you who are thinking, okay, there are other homeschool providers that we can always consider, but just want to share with you where we are coming from in the past 20 years that we've been able to serve our families, of course, through a flexible and personalized education. And when we talk about education, on the next slide, we want to share with you our track record, how I've mentioned we've been present for the past 20 years. 2019 was our 20th year. And since then, we've served over 12,000 students across 30 plus countries. We have learning hubs set up here in the Middle East. We have one in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Qatar. And we have learn groups that are also set up. I'll talk to you more about that later. But what's important to understand from this slide are the accreditations and the partner schools and a learning center that I will talk to you later on after I set solid this idea how we take accreditation seriously. We want to make sure that at the end of your homeschooling year, and you need to go to another season of your life, be it back in a regular school or be it now in college, after a homeschooling year, are you going to be okay? What about your records, transcripts, report cards? And I want to assure you that, because again, we take accreditation seriously, we have partnered with schools who are legitimate, who are able to give what you need in terms of records. If you think about report cards, again, transcripts and certifications, we're able to give that to you no problem after your homeschooling year. So we offer two accreditations, and that is an international accreditation and a Philippine accreditation. Now, if you go for the international accreditation, we have partnered with Wellspring Christian Family Schools in Maryland, USA, and that is where you're gonna be receiving your that is from where you're going to be receiving your report cards and transcripts at the end of the homeschooling year. Now, if you are going for the Philippine accreditation, we have partnered with Victory Christian International School and the Masters Academy in the Philippines. And so if you opt for this at the end of your homeschooling year, once again, it's not the HG logo that you're going to see on any of your transcripts or report cards. It is the logo of the accrediting school that you have chosen. The Learning Center partner that we have here in Dubai is IQ Modern Learning Center, and it's accredited by the KHDA. And that is where we do our events when we are still able to, and maybe soon we are going to be able to. And trainings also. And this is also where we hold the portfolio reviews of the children under a specific program. And I'm going to talk to you more about the programs in a little while, but let me share a formula that has helped us personalize your child's education. And that is this formula: learn plus connect plus shine plus equip. Now, these departments help us structure our families and make sure that the elements that they need that would set them up for a successful homeschool education, homeschool program, are in place. So when we talk about the Learn department, this is where we have services such as, of course, the accreditation that you will need to avail from, and then a record support, advisors, and assessment, plus the curriculum options that you can choose from. Connect is all about socialization. So if you think, will my children be okay? Are they going to be, now that they're homeschooling, what about socialization? And it's very common of a question, but I want to challenge you to ask it differently. Now that you are given this opportunity to homeschool, it's not the question of is my child getting socialization, but really, what type of socialization is my child getting? So, and I saw that in my 3 children that I've been homeschooling, that we've been homeschooling for 6 years now, because they're with us all the time and we talk. We're big on communication, we're very transparent, and I'm sure you saw that in the Mendoza family as well. But then we make sure that they get the socialization that they need, and we process all the concerns that they have, because now we realize that every question that they have will be now directed to us as parents, because we are now the teachers. I remember when they were still in the regular school and I was a professional teacher. I was teaching at a regular school for more than 10 years, and they would often ask me questions, and a lot of times I would tell them, my own children, I would tell them, you know what, your teacher will talk to you about this in the 3rd quarter. Or, I easily brush them off unless it's about something that's, related to possibly love or, their crushes. Of course, I would want an update about that. But if it's really about, information and especially the hard questions that our children ask us, right? We sort of direct them or deflect it somewhere else. But now that as a homeschooling family, I realize, and I thank God for this opportunity, because we can catch even those and turn it into a mentoring session. We can catch, character that needs to be developed, and obedience and attentiveness that needs to be in place. And so that is where we see the benefit of socializing with the parents, and getting much of it, the direction of the socialization, from the parents as well. So once again, that's the connect part of our formula. Apart from having this socialization in the family, we have set up learn groups that are geographically located. So we want to make sure that after you enroll in our program, you will be a part of a learn group that's nearest you. And this is where pocket sessions will be held. This is where family or parents would be, they would volunteer to teach everyone's children, be it a baking class or be it a first aid session training, because one of the parents are actually a medical practitioner. So it's very interesting, and it's amazing to see how these learn groups have turned into not just sort of like a lifeline, not just academically, but really that connection that we have, that helps us be encouraged in this homeschooling journey. Apart from the pocket sessions, the activities that the Learn groups would be initiating, we have the Shine department who's in charge of mounting signature events for us. So if you're kind of imagining, are they still gonna have graduations? What about, sports fest and other big events? We are intentional about setting this up because we wanna, of course, celebrate specific milestones, especially realizing how we can also turn that event into something more special, involving the parents, and make it a more family event. And we see a lot of breakthroughs in these events, and we are excited as we start to open up restrictions here in the Middle East, and we have a lineup of events already. But maybe you're thinking also, okay, but maybe not. What if we don't open for events, if we cannot gather? We have online activities also set up for you. We are aware, once again, how there is a need for families to be connected, and so we mount events online. For the high schoolers, we have hangouts, is what we call it. We have also an orientation that we do for our high schoolers. Speaking of orientations, that is a part of our Equip. Equip is all about trainings, and from today's orientation, there is another sort of what we call an HS 101, and this is your required first training, and this will launch you into your homeschooling year. Now, apart from HS 101, we have 4 more trainings that all our parents are required to attend in the first 3 months of their homeschooling year, so that you would have more confidence, you will be set up, and at the same time, these are the trainings that are advised by the DepEd, the Department of Education in the Philippines, their learning continuity program. We have that covered. These trainings that are required for those who would want to homeschool, and so that is you, parents, right? Also for tutors who will be partnering with you. So if you're thinking, can I have a tutor for my child? Yes, that is very possible, and we've seen that happen in some of our families, but we are also excited to see more and more parents taking charge of their children's education. At this point, maybe you're thinking now about programs, and maybe you've watched a video from our website that talked about the different programs that we have, and we have a video to show that for you. Let's watch this.
Hi, my name is Great Mabuti, a homeschooling dad and an educator. Let me walk you through our 7 flexible and personalized education programs. Our homeschooling programs are ideal for parents who are blessed with the opportunity to be their child's primary learning facilitator. First is Touch. Touch is for parents who want to be hands-on in teaching their kids, using a customizable, curated curriculum with the help of their seasoned homeschool advisor. The learning advisor would meet with the child and the parent for a regular portfolio review. Tech is for parents who want to support their child's learning with digital tools and support. Open to grades 3 to 12, Tech Ignitia, under Alpha Omega publication, is designed for independent learners who will learn online. Parents can monitor and support their child's progress through this online platform. Tech BJU DLO, Bob Jones University Press, Distance Learning Online, is designed for parents who want to facilitate their child's learning through a blended curriculum, a combination of tried and tested books and comprehensive videos that provide primary instruction to the learner. Our academy programs are for parents who want the benefits homeschooling provides, combined with the teacher and classroom support to the learner. Online Academy, go through the entire school year in the comfort and safety of your own home. Class advisors will engage with parents and keep them updated on their child's learning progress. Our specialized programs are designed for exceptional learners who may be gifted or challenged. The Learning Curve provides specialized homeschooling with the support of a seasoned TLC specialist through portfolio reviews and consultations. While our specialized The Learning Curve online program provides a customized and personalized curriculum and learning path together with a one-on-one online consultation with our TLC specialist. Included in all our programs are the following: special rates at the Learning Plus or HG's bookstore, student insurance, access to the HG loyalty program, scholarship opportunities, access to Britannica Online Library, and merchant discounts.
Choose your program today or take our questionnaire to get our personal program recommendations for your child. Enroll now!
All right, so that video showed us the 7 learning programs that we have. On your screen are the current programs that we are offering given our COVID-19 scenario. And this is, we believe, that is the best programs that we have, especially if you are homeschooling accidentally. And we are aware that maybe not a lot, but hopefully, you know, most of you are finding it to have, you know, you have no choice but the homeschool now because of the current scenario. And so we would want to present an option about that. But I want to start by talking and introducing how the orange boxes, and you see that Touch, Tech AOP, and Tech BJU are the programs that are very much parent-led. So this is this has a higher involvement from parents, but then for some of you, and I've mentioned, who, especially for those who are working, especially if you would need to have something in place and at the same time monitor them and the children are at home, then Online Academy is for you. These information are all actually going to be on an info pack that you're going to be receiving after this general session, because we're going to be breaking out into breakout rooms later on. But to go through the first 3, the next slide would show you an information that's also going to be on your info pack. So that's Touch, Tech AOP, and Tech BJU. On the upfront, Touch is high face-to-face engagement, but right now it's not physically, it's online. So you have a dedicated learning advisor. If you enroll under the Touch program, you will be assigned an advisor that you will meet 4 times a year. And what do you do in those meetings? Your child would need to present a portfolio review, and the advisor would be giving a feedback about it. And there's a relationship also that's going on in terms of accountability. And probably as you go along the way and you need more motivation, or you're quite not sure if you're on the right track, then you can go to your learning advisor for support. And so apart from the dedicated learning advisor, under Touch would be a customizable curriculum. So it's kind of open in a way, but I don't want to present it as open because it gives us an idea that you can choose any book you like, right? But then remember that we are working with an accrediting school. And so we need to make sure that the subjects that you are covering for a specific homeschooling year is based from what is required by those accrediting school. And so how do we customize it? A family under the Touch program would be receiving a book list, and the book list would have all the subjects you need to take. But under each subject would be options. So you could choose from among, 3 or 4 options, be it a physical book or an online book that you want to use. So that's how you can customize your curriculum. Also, if your child has specific inclination, you want to add to your curriculum, that is also very possible. And that is across all programs. That is, I think, a benefit of a homeschooling family now. They are hungrier for learning, and so we find ourselves really having more resources as our children are more interested into these topics or lessons. So About assessment under the Touch program, these are the portfolio reviews that I mentioned. So you come to the facility, you present a portfolio. These are highlights of learning, and you're gonna get training for this. If you're thinking, I'm not sure how to do that, I'm not sure how to consult and all that, you're gonna get training for this. And so the advisor would also have a part in the grade of your child. There's a percentage that she's going to be giving, but most of the gradings for that school year would be coming from the parent, from the learnings using the materials that you bought under the Touch program. That's open, right? That's customizable in a way. I'm re-emphasizing that because Tech AOP and Tech BJU are online platforms, and they are already a set curriculum. They have no options per subject. So if you choose between Tech AOP and Tech BJU, and those letters there, those acronyms, pertains to the materials that you're going to be using. So Tech AOP uses Alpha Omega publications, and then Tech BJU uses Bob Jones University Press materials. What's different is that Tech AOP is fully online. Everything's there, but Tech BJU has a mix of physical books. So if you want a blend of online learning plus physical books, then you go for a Tech BJU. And Tech AOP is fully online unless you are under a Philippine accreditation and you would want to be under Tech AOP, then Filipino and social studies would need to be a physical copy and not online. Another plus or another thing that you might want to consider, Tech BJU also have videos online, and Tech AOP, which is open for grades 3 to 12, are materials that needs to be read online also, and these both have parent logins. So you would be able to author, you would be able to customize the flow of learning at home. Because once the child logins, he would be able to see what's up for the day. He knows what to cover for the day. But then if you also sense that it's getting boring because it's already something that he has learned prior to homeschooling possibly, then there is a way for the parents, and that's a separate access for you to move on to the next one. Also, in terms of quizzes, you are able to also make quizzes there or assign more quizzes or homeworks or exercises if there's a need. So I'm emphasizing that because it's a set curriculum, but the parents can have a way to author it in such a way that the learning would still be engaging as much as possible. So those are the three programs that is more parent-led. And there's one more program, and I want to emphasize how while it is still involving a parent touch here, but Online Academy is more teacher-led because you will have a class advisor who will be walking with you in a weekly basis. So if especially you're working and you need to make sure that the child's progress is monitored, then Online Academy is for you. The curriculum under the Online Academy is also Tech BJU, the BJU curriculum that the Tech BJU uses, but Online Academy is in such a way that again, you would have more support from a class advisor. It's like a homeroom advisor that we're talking about here. Now, Touch and the Tech programs would still have support. Touch would have that learning advisor who's dedicated, but Tech AOP and Tech BG would still have a support advisor, but you cannot expect this advisor to be watching your daily progress or even the weekly progress. They are, for the Tech programs, the support advisors there would be to help you navigate your online platform or to help open up an online exam. So that's the kind of support. But of course, For consultations, you can also call them, but online academy has more of a hand-holding, has more reports given to the parent, especially if the child has been needing to catch up or needing help in some areas. Then the homeschool advisor, or sorry, the class advisor under the online academy would be able to help you. Another exciting update that we have for the families here in the Middle East is how you can choose your own curriculum track as well. When we think about curriculum track, we're looking at three. So we have an American curriculum, a Philippine curriculum, because we have accreditations for those. But now we have a British curriculum. And we sense that, we observe, we know that this is very relevant to families in the Middle East because most of the schools here uses a British curriculum. Now, maybe you're thinking, okay, so we have partner schools for the American and the Philippine curriculum. Who is your partner school for the British curriculum? We want to explain that how the UK education system works is that they learn via a curriculum, and then they take the national exams at certain points of the school year or of the learning journey. So maybe some of you already know this. So what we do is the curriculum that we have set in place for those of you who would want to take this option as your curriculum would make sure that at the end of the 6th grade or the 10th grade, you would be able to take your IGCSEs and the other national exams that you are looking into. But then a bonus now is how while you're using the British curriculum, you are also going to get your accreditation from the international school that we have in the Philippines, and that is Victory Christian International School. So again, additional to being able to take the national exams, those that will follow the British curriculum will also be getting their school documents and accreditations from VCIS, our international school partner in the Philippines. Essentially, at the end of a homeschooling year, you are ready for the national exams and you have your diploma or document from VCIS and everything. If you are a preschooler, there's that LRN number that you want to make sure that you also have. And so even under the British curriculum, you will have that LRN, Learner's Reference Number. Okay, now, no matter what your track, either you choose Touch, Tech, or Online Academy, here is what a homeschool year looks like at a glance. So you start by receiving a welcome email, you select your curriculum, you get advice from your advisor about curriculum. If you are under the tech program or online academy, that you get your logins, and then you start your parent teacher certification trainings. And these are the 5 trainings that I mentioned that you need to take and undergo for the first 3 months of your homeschooling year. And this is usually every Saturdays like this. We consider the weekends for our parents here. And this is also announced. The schedule is also announced, so you can plan around it. And then after that, your child would be getting also a login for a pre-test that the child needs to undergo. This is a diagnostic test. It's not a pass or fail test, but the results of this test would show you gaps, like learning gaps you need to address possibly in the beginning of the school year, and then see how they have improved, because the pre-test has got a post-test, which is the same test, but then at the post-test level, you will be able to see the improvements in the homeschooling year. Now, between pre-test and post-test are your portfolio reviews if you are going for the Touch program, and or the quarterly exams for if you are going to be under the Tech or the Online Academy. And then you're pretty much set for clearance so that you can receive the documents at the end of the school year to re-enroll in the next level or to transfer back to a regular school. Now, I want to mention at this point the enrollment cycles that we have. So you're thinking, when can we enroll? When is the first day of school? First day of school is actually when you receive your materials. You can start facilitating already. It's not like there's an announcement. Okay, everyone, all homeschooling families, first day of school will be Because again, it's a change of that mindset that we are now a homeschooling family. So technically you are in charge. You have your own sort of routine now. You can go faster if you need to, maybe because there's a vacation coming up, or maybe a little, take a little longer because the child is not understanding quite yet the lesson. So that is again a benefit of homeschooling. You can work around the readiness of your child. But then back to the enrollment cycle, we are now open for the June cycle. In a year, under the Philippine accreditation, we have the March, June, and September enrollment cycle, meaning these are the months when you can enroll. If you are going for the US accreditation or the international accreditation, there's an extra month for you, and that is December. So if you have your requirements already ready, then you can go ahead and submit that and start this June, or wait till September, or if you are going for the US accreditation, you have December to start. Maybe you're also thinking, okay, out of the 12,000 students who graduated or have homeschooled with HG, how are the graduates? Where are they now, the alumni? And on your screen would be showing you the universities that our current graduates have been plugged in, and they are shining, they are thriving, and they're actually enjoying their time. I know this because a few of them have been messaging me still and giving me updates about how they are, and they are appreciating how they've been homeschooled, and they've been focusing more on learning and not really being top one or doing always 100% in every exam, but then they are enjoying in such a way that it's really, they're learning more, and they are exercising much more of how they can communicate to other classmates and have presentation opportunities. And so it's exciting really to hear, and inspiring also for me, because my high schoolers have yet to be in the university. But just to share, my eldest, who's now 17, have already asked me if there's homeschooling for college. So that's how she's really gotten the groove of homeschooling, and I'm really blessed about that. I have 4 videos upcoming for you, and firstly would be a video about a special project that we have, and we want to share that with you. And then the next 3 videos would be more stories from our families to help confirm your decision to homeschool with HG. Let's watch this.
20 years of learning better together, of shared experiences that equipped, nurtured, and brought us closer together. On top of all the learning, there was a lot of living intentionally, laughing wholeheartedly, and loving unconditionally. As one family, we've been blessed with the many opportunities to purposefully steer our children towards who God wants them to be. And no matter the obstacles we encountered, the reward of seeing them uniquely flourish makes it all worth it. It can only get better from here as we take that next step to expand our borders by sharing our blessings to help more children get access to better learning. Presenting Homeschool Global 1-to-1 in partnership with World Vision. World Vision is a Christian relief, development, and advocacy organization devoted to improving the lives of families and communities to overcome poverty through various forms of support. We now get to walk this journey not just further, but deeper. HG is committed to supporting the education of one orphaned, abandoned, or most vulnerable child on behalf of every enrolled family. HG families will also get to engage with these children by writing them letters and bonding with them in various events and activities that we will organize. There are many ways you can share your time, talent, and treasure to these orphaned, abandoned, and most vulnerable children. And we know that more than what we give is what we will receive, as we are gifted with the opportunity to help improve more lives and to witness more life transformations. 1-to-1, 1 HG, 1 for children, all for the audience of 1.
Our first year in Homeschool Global was quite an experience. we are miles away from Philippines, but following curriculum prescribed by DepEd and being a DepEd accredited school make us feel confident that our child is getting the same knowledge as everybody else at home. Parents have options to follow a different curriculum as Homeschool Global follows an international customized curriculum.
Another great experience at Homeschool Global is that their strong advisor support system. We are a first-year homeschool parents, but we never felt lost or left out because our advisor always see to it that all concerns are covered and taken care. We are also guided by the series of training that is conducted by the school in order for us to gain knowledge on how to go about homeschooling.
And as a student, I felt that I learned more during homeschooling and also gained confidence to showcase my talents as series of events were being held throughout the school year.
Hello, my name is Tyler Brent De Leon, a recent graduate of Homeschool Global Middle East. I have been accepted to New York University Shanghai with neural science or chemistry as my intended major. Homeschool Global Middle East gave me the opportunity to choose my own subjects. As a result, I ended up taking American history for my social studies course. I became more independent, more mature, more disciplined, and a more hardworking person as a result of being homeschooled. Consequently, I had developed superior studying habits which helped me score in the 99th percentile in the SAT. Most importantly, I also had the privilege to pursue my interests outside of school. These include bodybuilding and volunteering in a pet clinic and a school for children with disabilities. The latter two helped me reaffirm my passions and convictions for the field of medicine. Now, if you are deciding whether you want to be homeschooled or not, I urge you to take this as a challenge in order for you to grow as a student and as an individual, and most importantly, for you to satisfy your intellectual curiosities.
I still remember the orientation where the fathers are told the fathers have to be more firm, more strict, and supervised. But because I'm a solo parent, I think I end up with a blend of both. With Joaquin, you often have to be firm. There's the father role, but the flexibility I think has helped a lot as well. Yeah, the styles you end up employing all kinds of styles. I think because teaching is 24/7. You find opportunities to be an educator at the most unexpected times. You may be driving and you see something out there, and you talk about it. You can be at the beach and you go into educator mode as well. And so for those who are still considering homeschooling, I will tell you, I do not want to idolize it. It does involve a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, but it's well worth it. Really, the only way to find out is to jump into it. I suspect that in many cases the fears are unfounded. That you'll actually find it's not as daunting as the first year. I remember was you're so tense about it, and then eventually it grows on you. It's courage and faith that you can do it, and it's the knowledge that you are giving the best. Because who would be the better teacher than the parent?
So once again, those are videos for you. Hopefully they have helped you consider how homeschooling can truly be a benefit for us, an opportunity to raise our children into the best versions of themselves. On your screen right now are your next steps. You need to expect an email And if ever you don't receive an email today or tomorrow, I have an email address on this slide as well that you might want to catch and make sure that you have a copy so that we can go both ways. If you haven't received an email, please communicate with us. And then in that email would be links for you to enroll online, to upload also your requirements, should you be ready already to enroll, and then of course to ask questions. Your admissions officers are very intentional to follow up, and so we have also been receiving a lot of inquiries, and so we ask that if you haven't received any reply just yet, then please be proactively following us up, and that's going to be helpful for us as well. Now, before we talk about other questions that have been raised, we have a feedback system that we're going to do together. We're going to spend some time. All I need you to do is to please go open up another browser and type in www.slido.com. You will be asked for an event code and just enter HSOrient 0530. And I have 3 questions, maybe 4, I think, for you. And answers to these would definitely help us, be affirmed in what we're doing or improve in our services. So let's do that now in the next 3 minutes, and we'll start going through the questions that have been raised here. So once again, please go open up a browser, type in slido.com, enter the code, and just answer. And we'll start the Q&A in 3 to 5 minutes. Okay, thank you for participating in our feedback survey platform. Now I'm ready to answer some of your questions before we break out for the breakout rooms where more information about especially the fees and other program specific questions will be answered. I want to start off by reading this question here from Miss Christine. She was asking just to confirm the timings for K2, grade 2, and grade 11 for Filipino curriculum. How many meetings in a week? I'm not sure what specific program you are referring to here, but if you're possibly talking about the schedule as a family, it's really up to you. But then as far as hours are concerned, if you want to intentionally spend time facilitating learning for your preschool, a lot about 2 to 4 hours, actually 2 to 3 should be enough. Grade 2 elementary would be an early, this is early elementary, so this is around 2 to 4 hours, 4 to 6 possibly for intermediate, and for high school this would be 7 to 8 hours if you're thinking about that. But as a homeschooling family, I found that since the goal is learning, some days would be really fast and some days would be taking more time than usual. As a parent, especially if you are going for the online academy, there is very low parent monitoring needed there. But if you have the time and of course if you can sacrifice more of what it takes to be present, then you are looking into the touch and the tech programs. But the tech would have lesser also parental involvement, possibly, if we could call it, because you would need to still monitor the progress of your child, but then everything is done for you as far as curriculum is concerned. The lessons that the child would need to take would be there for you as long as you log in during the day and take it up. So how many meetings in a week? It's really depending on the schedule that you set up. As a family, when we were starting, I had a specific schedule for all three of my children. But then as we go along in our homeschooling journey, I find that for a specific child, for my eldest especially, it was helpful that she writes down her schedule and she submits it to me, and then all I need to do is to just make sure that the goals are met every quarter or every month. And please be ready to adjust your schedule, because there would definitely be times when you are hoping for this to be achieved, but then due to other circumstances, so there's a lot of that. There's a lot of interruptions, and we welcome that as parents, because now we are after developing in them resilience, perseverance, grit, because in the world it is really not an easy life, and so we want to prepare them that way as well. My son is in a regular school under the British, and how is the transition for that? So that is a great question. I've talked about how you have an option now to go and and use the British curriculum as far as transition is concerned. So we're going to take you in as per the level that you are promoted to. For example, the report card says promoted to year 3, then we take you in as grade 3. But then the curriculum, if you want the British curriculum, would be adjusted to that level, as if you are in year 3. So we've customized it in such a way that if ever you need to go back to a regular school with the British curriculum there, you will be all set. You won't need to repeat another level or repeat subjects in that way. So we can give you more information about that, as we are also able to give you a book list of what it looks like under the British curriculum. I have questions here about fees, and that's going to be care of the breakout room session. Conflict, so transition process, I've talked about that. Okay. This family from Kuwait is asking if you have plans to set up a hub there. Not yet, but we have families already homeschooling from Kuwait. And the question also here is that, okay, if we go for example, the touch program, and you need to meet up 4 times a year, that's going to be online. And so we've been doing that for our families outside of Dubai or outside of Abu Dhabi. And especially if you're from Qatar, we already have a hub set up for you, but there's no need for you to go to these hubs for the portfolio review. If you are based in Kuwait, for example, for the Vega family, but we can do online portfolio reviews with your child. For a first timer, he's turning 5 in September. Can we enroll him in online academy? Yes, very much so. Remember the enrollment cycles that we have, especially for the Philippine accreditation, we only have up till September. But then if you are going for the US, we have another month for you to enroll, and that is in December. The enrollment for the British curriculum is the same, since the accreditation for if you're using a British curriculum is the Philippine accreditation, so it's the same enrollment months. March, that's done for this year. June and September is what we have for you if you are going for the British accreditation, British curriculum. There is something that I missed to mention earlier about the enrollment cycles. You cannot enroll in the same academic year twice. For example, you were able to enroll in the 3rd grade in March. You're done by December of the same school year, and you are, done, as in the advisor have also evaluated the learning progress. But then since it's in a same academic year, you need to wait till the next school year to enroll to the next level. Why is this? It's because we are working with accrediting schools. And so when you register in our program, we submit all of your requirements in these schools, and they make sure that you are enrolled in the specific school year. And so while we are flexible around, learning at the child's own pace, we want to capitalize on that. But at the same time, we need to be mindful that we work with what is required by the accrediting school. We need to cover at least 200 school days, and that is around 10 months till 12 if you need more time. But then if you're looking into fast tracking for some reason, you come talk to us about it so we can align with the goals that you have for your family. Now, again, if you enroll in March and you're ready to re-enroll in the next enrollment cycle in December, but in the same school year, then it's not possible. You need to wait for the next school year. And this is an interesting question from Russell. How can a parent-led be an effective tool in our part when my wife and I are working? And that is very valid, especially here in the Middle East. And that's why we have set up the online academy for you. So in terms of monitoring and making sure that that your child is actually learning at a certain track that you want to make sure is covered, because you will have a class advisor working with you. Parent-led can come in mentoring your child's attitude or a character, because really homeschooling and the Mendozas, I think specifically Joy mentioned this, that in homeschooling it's really parenting skills. We're really parenting our children while we homeschool, so it's such a privilege in a way, and it's exciting. I see my children grow before my very eyes, and we are more close than ever, and they talk to me very transparent, even about heart issues, and so it's very meaningful that way. Okay, first timers both working, we're concerned about support. Quarterly review with advisor seems insufficient. Okay. All right, so I have a question here about the support. You're a first timer, and if you're looking at, I've mentioned how under the Touch program, you're gonna have to meet with the advisor 4 times a year. That's every quarter for a portfolio review. But that doesn't mean that that's the only time that you can meet with them. If you need more consultation schedules with them, they're very open. They are, I was a learning advisor at one point before coming here in the Middle East. I've been serving HG as a learning advisor, and there's such a relationship there. So even while we're not time yet to meet for a portfolio review, there's a lot of communication already ongoing between me and the family, setting them up and giving them advice if a curriculum or material is not working. So we work together and adjust, right? So it's very valid that support needs to be in place, especially if you're not starting your homeschooling year yet. But if you caught the formula also that we have, we are big on parent trainings. We have events, and not just, I'm not sure what the level of your child is, but we have, especially for high schoolers, we want to develop their leadership skills. And so while we do trainings for our parents, we also have set up what we call a High Unite community group, and they have their own set of officers, and they meet for, when COVID was not here yet, they would meet for events such as, let me see, we have like sports fest for just the high schoolers. We have what they call, they come up with a very unique titles for events such as pizza party, pare, and so they want to just come together, have pizza. But then of course the advisors would be there to talk to them about, you know, relevant stuff and make it really engaging. We also have a camp, survival camp, for these high schoolers. For the younger learners, we have arts and crafts, we have musical theaters. And so if you are thinking about support, we have the advisors in place. We have a learn group in place for you that can that you can connect also. And these are families who are homeschooling in our program and can walk alongside you during the way. Tech BGU will still have an advisor, yes. So all are with advisors. It's just a matter of how they are, you know, being involved in your homeschooling journey. So an online academy would be on a weekly basis, giving you updates about the child's progress. The Touch would be a face-to-face online or online, since the COVID is still here. It's a portfolio review that we're talking about. And the tech programs would be more of a support in terms of navigating the platform, or even questions such as, you know, this specific lesson is kind of hard. And so we are also, and then on the info pack, you would see that we have online group tutorials available for our families as well. It would be okay to change the Philippine curriculum from British, because we are planning for him to go back to, okay. Great, because yes, actually the only option that you have under the British curriculum is a Philippine accreditation. So definitely the British curriculum that you're going to be using would have the subjects Filipino and Araling Panlipunan. So that would be no problem for you eventually when you go back to the Philippines for college. They receive a diploma, definitely. I mentioned how we are with a partner school, and all of you're technically enrolled in this school via VCIS or TMA, the Master's Academy, if you're going for the Philippine accreditation, or if you're going for the US or international accreditation, then that's WCFS or Wellspring Christian Family Schools. And you can look these schools up on the internet. And the certificates and diplomas would be coming from these schools after your homeschooling year. The best for a 5-year-old, if you are still undecided, is Touch. Only because she's very young. She would still need to have sort of less of an online learning, if I may say that. And I think Joy also touched about this. Plus, as a 5-year-old, you're not going to be spending a lot of time in terms of how, you know, the difficulty of the subjects, because it can always be hands-on. You can always have science or math in the kitchen or while doing groceries. So it's all about that, making it really play-based, if I may call that, for our 5-year-olds. Okay, you are here in Dubai and might be going back to the Philippines at the end of the school year. Can we still continue what we have started? No, we will definitely finish the school year with you. For example, you enrolled while you're here in Dubai and you need to move to another country in the middle of the school year, we would still be able to finish the school year with you because of all the online appointments that we can make. And then, of course, you can re-enroll in HG if you are in the Philippines. And we have HG in the Philippines as well. So there's not much of a transition or gaps there. So yeah. Touch program for a 4-year-old, yes. Both parents are working, but another guardian can do the mentoring on parents' behalf. Yes, we have families who are set up that way, and it's great also that the parents realize their role, especially for younger children such as 4 and 5-year-olds, and I'm sure you're gonna be also involved, especially in character building, making sure that the obedience and attentiveness is in place. I say that because those are the 2 main character traits that will be helpful to be in place for preschoolers especially. Okay, questions here about really what can you recommend for a program for our children. It's really based on your goals. And as what and I'm gonna end with this question so we can move to the breakout room sessions. If you're thinking about what to choose for your child, maybe you wanna think about how much time can you spend preparing or being involved in the homeschooling journey. And so if you have more time, then think about the touch and the tech programs. The only difference would be touch would be customizable curriculum. You can choose from among options, but then tech, AOP and Tech BJU are online platforms, and the dedicated learning advisor that is assigned to your family under the touch program might be helpful for first timers because of that connection that you have. But then if you are also thinking about how you want that relationship, but at the same time not think so much about preparing because you're working, then online academy is my recommendation, because that has both of that parent involvement, but really less and very low in preparation, since everything is going to be set up for you, and you have the class advisor, sort of a homeroom advisor, if you imagine our regular schools, in charge of your child and giving you reports on a weekly basis. Okay, let me end there. We're gonna revisit the questions on the breakout rooms that we have, and I want to show you now the slide with the links to go to. It's very easy for you to realize where to go. It's just based on where you are. So if you are from Qatar, it's time now to go to your Zoom room. If you are outside of Qatar, then you go to Discover HSME. These are also clickable on that description area, that description part in the YouTube channel that you are watching us from. So it's there, just click on it. And it's important that you go, because that is also where we are going to be able to distribute the file of this info pack that we have with more information, and the fees also, which are also going to be emailed to you. So if you are, if you need to go and cannot be at the breakout room session and you're worried about not receiving the info pack, don't worry. We're going to make sure that this is also sent to you today or tomorrow. So again, it's time to break out for more Q&A. Go to the rooms posted or shown here on this slide. It's been a great morning with you all. Thank you for being here, and I hope to see you soon. See you at the Zoom room.